You are now listening to the Box Seat Boys podcast.
What's up, guys? It's Josh back with episode 4 of the Boxy Boys podcast. Let's get right into the show. Let's get right into the headline section of the show.
Boxy Boys Sports Headlines.
And what we're going to do is we're going to kick it off with Game 6 of the World Series tonight. We have a 3-2 series. Houston's leading the series right now. I don't think we could honestly have asked for a better series. I predicted the Dodgers in 6. Obviously, that can't happen now. It's unbelievable how great playoff baseball is. You know, they are getting numbers that they haven't gotten in a long time. Game 5 had, I forget what the exact number is, but they basically had a better viewing than Sunday Night Football, which is what we're trying to go for, is what baseball is trying to go for, I should say. And this series is just, it's helping baseball so much. We're seeing so many young players step up in big time ways. Altuve, everyone knows Altuve, but I mean Bellinger and George Springer, Correa, all these guys are playing out of their mind on the biggest stage, and we're getting, home runs, we're getting comebacks, late inning, drama. It's everything you want in a World Series, and we're getting it. And by all indication of how this series has gone, I wouldn't expect anything less than a Game 7. It wouldn't seem right if this series ended in 6 the way it's going. It's just everything. It has everything. It needs to have a Game 7. The one thing I will say about this is, and pitchers have kind of brought it up. Verlander talked about it. Darvish talked about it. I'm sure a couple other guys have. But it seems we've already had the juiced ball talk. The balls are juiced. That's why we got the inflated home run numbers. We're seeing it still in the playoffs. Is there something else going on with the balls? A lot of pitchers are saying the balls are slicker or more slick. I don't know the correct way to say that, but either way, they don't feel right. So, is it a different material? What is going on with the balls? Because if you watch, now I wasn't super conscious of them thinking there was a different material until I read a report on it. But it does make sense now after seeing Verlander struggle with his slider a little bit. Darvish had a terrible time with his slider. A lot of other pitchers, their breaking balls are not necessarily flat, but they're just kind of thumbing them in there. They're kind of just spinning in there. And that's where we're getting a lot of home runs. That's where we're getting a lot of high scoring games, because they don't have that same snap. And when I started to notice it was when Darvish pitched. His slider is filthy, and he had trouble all night with his pitch. So that kind of got me thinking, is there something going on with the baseballs? Is the MLB, I don't want to say tampering with them, but are they using something else? Are they a little bit more slick so pitchers don't get that grip, which would allow them to snap that ball off a little bit more? flatter pitches, less break, everything like that leads to more home runs, more excitement, drives more fans. Is that what we're seeing? Is that it would make sense? It's kind of that controversy, that conspiracy that the MLB is doing this to drive fans. I don't know if that's true, but it's working, because Game 5 Sunday night drew more people than the NFL game. Now, I understand it's a World Series versus regular season game. If the Super Bowl and the World Series, it'd be a completely different story. But still, football usually is going to steal that viewership. Baseball's kind of, in a lot of cases, to some people, boring. So maybe they won't tune in. But in this case, when the numbers came out, it seemed as if, I think the peak hours were 11 or 11:45 p.m. Obviously, with the West Coast and everything, that makes sense. But they were consistently higher viewership than the NFL. Obviously, one night, and like I said, a World Series game makes that difference. But in the past, I would imagine, maybe last year is the exception, that wouldn't have been the case. The NFL would have kind of took that viewership away. So I can't say for sure. I don't want to lean one way or the other if the MLB is messing with the balls and making it a little bit tougher for pitchers to draw that viewership. It just seems kind of odd that two of the better junk ball I wouldn't say junk ball pitchers, but two of the better pitchers with great sliders said the same thing, and other pitchers have kind of went along with that. So that's my first thing that I wanted to say about the World Series. On the other hand, man, it's amazing World Series. We're seeing everything. I picked the Dodgers in 6. In my heart, I always wanted the Astros to win. I really, even though I want the Astros to win, I want this to go 7. Just because, to me, there's nothing better than a Game 7 in the World Series. Last year, we were spoiled with that. I want to be spoiled again with another Game 7. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. I really... This series has been so crazy. So crazy that I honestly can't even begin. After... I don't remember if it was Game 2 or Game 3, whatever game it was, with... I honestly went to bed and I missed, one of the best endings. And then the other night with the back-to-back, or the other night with the walk-off and everything like that, it's been an absolutely insane series, and I expect it to continue. I expect a great game tonight. I expect a lot of intensity from both sides, and I hope we get to see Game 7, because I'm just not ready to see the baseball season end either. I'm not ready for that. So we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, when you guys are hearing this, you'll already know what's happened. So we'll just kind of move on. Hopefully, you get to see a Game 7. We all get to enjoy Game 7 and everything like that. The next thing, NFL. Trade deadline's coming up. The Eagles, when I first started writing the script, the big thing was the Eagles are looking to acquire Calvin Johnson. And the first thing, to me, I thought it was a long shot. Didn't think it was going to happen. But man, if they were able to make that happen, you got to put them as either the front runner, or they're already one of the front runners for a Super Bowl appearance at least. Calvin Johnson has already reportedly said he doesn't want to come back, and he has been working out. So, it just seems like a long shot. He's working out. It'd be great for him to come back. He obviously, in my opinion, probably can still do it with the best of them. But it's a matter of if his heart's going to be in it, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be. And as I was going through everything, I saw the Jaguars were interested in everything like that. And then I get a notification from Bleacher Report. The Eagles acquired Jay Ajayi from Miami for a fourth round pick. So the Eagles were already, I think they're fifth in the league in rushing, top 5-6 teams in the league in rushing. And then they add this dude who was a Pro Bowler last year. He had something like 1,200 yards or pretty close to 1,200 if he didn't touch it. I mean, that's a big move. And, he can catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit. But he adds a really, really good player to that team that's already pretty good. Obviously being 6-1 or 7-1, whatever they are now. Adam Schefter this morning, he did say, it doesn't seem like Calvin wants to come out of retirement, and if he did, he's still got a $16 million base contract that's on the books. He doesn't, like I said, he doesn't seem like he wants to come back, even though he is working out kind of the NFL workout, the NFL player mentality. There's just a lot that has to fall into place. I think the Eagles kind of saw that wasn't going to happen. They went out and got Ajayi. Jacksonville, whatever they need to do, they were also in the talks as being interested. They're even more of a long shot, in my opinion. So I think as much of a topic as it was, and it kind of opened my eyes like, hey man, he might come back, it's an extreme long shot for any team, regardless of who it is, because of the contract. The fact that even if he did entertain offers and say, hey, Detroit, I'm interested in a trade to these teams, see what you can get, I don't know if his heart would be in it enough for him to actually commit to that. So either way, Eagles got Ajayi, and for a fourth rounder, I just got a notification on my phone right before I came on to record that, let me see, what do we got here? So we got two. The Bengals and Browns tried to complete a trade for A.J. McCarron, but it couldn't be finalized. And then I get, a little bit before that, the Panthers trade Kelvin Benjamin to the Bills for a 3rd and a 7th round pick. We went from nothing to chaos in 36 hours. 36 hours, and now people are getting moved. We have Jimmy G got traded for a 2nd round pick to the 49ers. That one had me scratching my head a little bit. I'm sure the Patriots have a reason, and this is what I thought of. Here's what I thought. So I'm not 100% on this, but I believe Patriots couldn't get a deal done with him earlier. They couldn't come to an agreement. So I don't know if they continued talks or if they kind of cut it off. But what they said, well, at least what I think they're saying is, hey, we're not going to come to a deal. Let's try and get something for him. There were talks about trading in the first round of talks for trading. They wanted like 2 first rounders or at least a first rounder. No deal came, obviously, and now we're going to make this trade with the 49ers, which is going to be an early 2nd round pick. I mean, it's pretty much a first round pick. What are they going to be, 33, 34, 35, somewhere in that range? That's still a really good pick. Also, I'm very interested to see, especially Belichick's mindset. They thought the offer that they made to Jimmy G was fair. He didn't accept it. So I could see the Patriots saying, okay, listen, we're going to trade you. We're going to get somebody back. let's see what the 49ers offer him for a long-term contract or a contract extension. Doesn't necessarily have to be long-term. If he doesn't agree with that and it's lower than what we offered, maybe we try and get him as a free agent, because he's a free agent after this year. So if they are unable to come to an agreement, which I think this is a little bit more of a long shot, I think he will come to an agreement with the 49ers. But if not, maybe Bill says, hey, I know they're not going to offer a better deal than what we offered him, and he declined us. Let's wait and see, get something for him now. If he's there as a free agent, maybe we pull the trigger on him then. That seems like a very Belichick thing to do. I don't have any real problem with the trade. I wasn't like, oh man, there's no reason we should be getting rid of Jimmy G or anything like that. My only issue is, who's Brady's backup now? They have a bye this week. I think they have a bye this week. So they have time to sign. And there were rumors that Hoyer was going to be part of the deal. Obviously, he wasn't part of the deal after the trade went through. The 49ers released Hoyer, so maybe a release by the 49ers, the Patriots sign him as a backup, maybe something like that. I'm not really sure what the Patriots have planned in terms of backup quarterback for Brady. But I'm interested to see what they do. And I'm interested to see now. I mean, I'm always interested to see the draft and everything like that. But now they got a really good pick here. Would it surprise me if they took that pick and traded it? No. But I want to see what they're going to do with it. Maybe they package it with something or see what happens. But the other huge headline, especially for me, I'm a big college football fan. The playoff rankings come out in about 2 hours. About 2 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my top six. I'm not going to go through the top 25. I think the top 4 is cutting it off a little too early, because the top 4 is not just going to stay. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? What was it, 2015, when the first college football poll came out? I think Ohio State was like 16th, and they ended up winning the national championship. So I just thought 6. I'll give you the 4 that I think should be the top 4, and then I'll give you 2 just outside. So starting at number 1, a lot of people that know me might be surprised by this, and I'm putting Georgia number 1. Everybody knows how big of an Alabama fan I am. I'm putting Georgia number 1. And here's exactly why. Georgia's 8-0. They have a big win against Notre Dame. They won 20-19 in South Bend. They just beat the pants off of Mississippi State when they played them, even though it was at home, 31-3. They have right there, that already makes their resume better than Alabama. I don't know if the committee is going to move Alabama out of number 1, but I would, just simply because Georgia's 8-0. They beat a really good Notre Dame team. They beat a pretty solid Mississippi State team. I think they're the number 1 team in the country because the schedule they've played has proved it. Number 2 is Alabama. I put Alabama 2, and here's why. You can't knock them for being 8-0. They're 8-0. They play who they're scheduled to play. But they have no big-time wins. The one big-time win they were supposed to have was Florida State. And Florida State is not, I don't even think they're 500 right now. They might not even go to a bowl game. So Florida State is not the signature impressive win that Alabama was hoping for. They've blown everybody out pretty much. I mean, everybody they played, they pretty much blown out. But that signature win, they don't have that Notre Dame like Georgia does, or Ohio State just beat Penn State. They don't have a win like that this year that keeps them at number one for me. Even though the committee, I have a feeling, committee might say, hey, Alabama hasn't done anything to move them out of that number one spot. Until they do, we're going to keep them there. I can see that happening. But for me, I just think Georgia's super impressive. Alabama needs to show, they have a chance this week against LSU. They need to show me something in that game, and then obviously the rest of the season. And then they might meet up in the SEC championship game. My number 3 team is Notre Dame. And this is where that Georgia gets that jump, because Notre Dame's only loss is Georgia. And they lost by 1. Notre Dame has key wins against Michigan State, USC, NC State. 3 possible top 25 teams right there. People were picking NC State to be in the college football playoffs. Some people were picking USC. Obviously, they haven't exactly lived up to those standards. But they're at least top 25 teams. The number 4 team, Ohio State. Ohio State has that one loss against Oklahoma. It is a big loss, losing to Oklahoma. But they just beat Penn State. And not only did they just beat Penn State, but the committee loves Ohio State. The committee loves Ohio State. They will put Ohio State in. And honestly, there's no reason not to. Now, this is where it gets a little controversial because, like I said, Ohio State lost to Oklahoma. But I have Ohio State in front of Oklahoma. I have Oklahoma at number 5. Oklahoma has that big win against Ohio State, but then lost to Iowa State, which is looking better and better. Iowa State just beat TCU. So we're seeing Iowa State kind of move up the ranks a little bit, and that loss doesn't look so bad now. But Oklahoma is my number 5 team. Wisconsin comes in at number 6, and a lot of people think Wisconsin is not worthy of a top 6, top 7, possibly even top 8 ranking. And here's why. They're 8-0, which is obviously is impressive. But who have they beat? They haven't beat anybody worth talking about. And here's the problem. When you are up against the committee and up against other teams, and you see Ohio State beat Penn State, but they lost to Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's a top 5 team, or Notre Dame lost, but they are only losses to Georgia, and Georgia's that number 1 team, they're going to get the nod over Wisconsin. I'm going to read you Wisconsin's schedule. Week 1, Utah State. Then they played FAU, BYU, Northwestern, Nebraska, Purdue, Maryland, Illinois. Northwestern is the best team on their schedule that they played, and they're 5-3. To close out their schedule, they play 3-5 Indiana, 5-3 Iowa, 6-2 Michigan, and 4-4 Minnesota, all unranked. There's a very good possibility Wisconsin runs the table regular season wise. So if they run the table regular season wise, and you have them just outside because of that schedule, if they go into the Big Ten title game, most likely playing Ohio State, if they lose to Ohio State, they're done. If they beat Ohio State, does that bode well for them? Because that's their one game, that one win that they needed? Or doesn't Oklahoma, who beat a few good teams, or Clemson get in, or something like that? So I think Wisconsin is kind of on the outside looking in simply because of their schedule. They're not a bad team. I'm not saying they're a bad team. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. I'm saying their strength of schedule is what's going to hurt them with the committee. So those are my 6 teams: Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin. The committee might throw a wrench in there. Who knows? Right now, the AP has Wisconsin number 4. I think they definitely got that wrong. I think the highest they're going to be is 6. But we'll have to wait and see. But let's go ahead and move on to our against the spread games and picks this week.
It's in! You covered, yes, it's gone! Are you sure what's the final score? Miami by 4! You covered 12! I covered! Yes!
What is against the spread?
So, like always, and we went with against the spread as the real simple title, just to get it across real simple for everyone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through 4 college games. As always, the rapid fire NFL games, and then some prop bets. So I'm going to go through some future bets, some prop bets as they call them, just so you guys see some odds in the future. So the first game, all of these games are top 25 matchups. So the 4 games that I picked are top 25 matchups. There's 2 other top 25 matchups, I believe, this week. I left those out just because I didn't think they were going to be as good as these 4. The first one kicks off at 3:30, and it's Clemson at NC State. Clemson is favored by 7, and the over-under is 51. So Clemson does have that one loss. They lost to Syracuse 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. They lost 20, or maybe 3 weeks ago now. Did they have a bye week? 27-24. But they're still a really solid, like people kind of put Clemson to the side. They lose to Cuse. They had a bye week. And then they beat Georgia Tech pretty handily. I think it was, 24-7. So I wouldn't write them off. I don't have them in my top 4, top 6, whatever it is, but I wouldn't write them off. And NC State's a really good team. I know a lot of teams or a lot of analysts are big on NC State and actually are picking the upset in this game with NC State being at home. Here's my thing. The 6 wins that NC State has, I'm not that impressed with. I'm not impressed with any of the games they've played. The one thing I am impressed with NC State is their quarterback play. Ryan Finley, I'm guessing. He is just over 2,100 yards. He has 12 touchdowns, 1 interception. He protects the ball. He doesn't need to do anything crazy or anything like that, but he protects the ball. He's going to have to protect the ball this week. He's playing against one of the most talented front sevens in college football. And this is not, Wake Forest or anything like that. This is Clemson. They're going to be coming for him. I expect Clemson's defense to make plays, force turnovers. I expect their offense to make... Here's how I'll put it. They'll make enough plays. They'll make enough plays to win. I don't think that they're going to dominate this game, but I think the defense is what's going to kind of carry them. A late turnover or, forcing a few early on in the game and getting all the momentum. They're going to look to carry that momentum that they had, only allowing 7 points against Georgia Tech into this game. So that's why I'm taking Clemson to cover this 7 points. And I think it's going to be like a 27-13, 27-17 game. It's not going to be an overly high-scoring game, in my opinion. Both teams have pretty stout defenses. I just think Clemson's defensive front is going to give trouble to NC State. The next game is Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. And this is a 4 o'clock kick. Oklahoma State is favored by 3. Wow, I really didn't expect Oklahoma State to be favored. I guess they're at home, so that makes sense. The over-under, this is truly a college number. The over-under is 76. The Sooners have won the last 4 or 5 meetings, and the last 2 they have won by 43 points combined. So the Sooners have kind of owned the series of late. If you like quarterback play, this is going to be a battle of quarterbacks. You have Mason Rudolph and Baker Mayfield just hucking the rock around. Both guys throw for over 325 yards. It's going to be a shootout. If this game was a 49-45, 48-45 game, wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised if both teams scored in the 50s. Wouldn't be surprised if both teams scored in the 40s. That's why this over-under is so high, because both teams have the firepower. And both defenses aren't that great. Both of them give up over 24 a game. So expect some big plays. If you like fast offense, if you like a lot of points, big plays, especially through the air, check this game out. Oklahoma State might have the best wide receiver in the country in James Washington. If he's not the best wide receiver, he's definitely one of the most explosive. He's already over 1,000 yards. Every time he catches the ball, it just seems like he makes one move and he just runs away from everybody. So I think the game, honestly, it could go either way, especially with the point total so high. Both teams just scoring at will, basically. It could go to whoever has the ball last. Oklahoma State being at home, they looked really good last week against WVU. I have a little bias towards Mason Rudolph. I like him better than Baker Mayfield. But I think the weapons that Mason Rudolph has with James Washington, I forget their running back's name, I can't think of it, but he's amazing. Their offense at home, I think Oklahoma State covers the 3 points. I'm not going to touch the over-under. That's too rich for my blood. That's too high. Like I said, I would not be surprised if this game was a 48-45 game, 49-45 game. But that's too many points. There's too many things that could happen for it to stay under. So I'm just going to leave the over-under alone. The third game is LSU at Alabama. 8 p.m. kickoff. Alabama is favored by 21.5. And the over-under is 48.5. Wow. Alabama's favored by 3, over 3 touchdowns. Alabama has held their last... Well, not their last. They've held 6 of their 8 opponents this year under 10 points. That's impressive. I mean, their defense just reloads every single year. I love, everyone always says that they don't rebuild or whatever it is, they reload because they're so good. LSU has their own defense, their own playmakers on defense. They're a very good defense. Ogeron is starting, I guess, to figure it out with that team. This is a rivalry game, so anything LSU, Alabama, anything can happen. We've had 9-6 games. We've had crazy stuff. So here's the key to this game. Jalen Hurts is going to have to be able to throw the ball efficiently. He hasn't shown it all that much. He cannot... This offense cannot be one-dimensional. I understand they have Damian Harris and Bo Scarborough and Jalen can run and, they have 6 or 7 running backs that can get touches in a game. But they're going to have to be able to soften up the defense with some... It doesn't have to be down the field. You don't have to hit Ridley on that skinny post every time. Just short little passes that kind of move those defensive backs back. They respect the pass a little bit. So Damian Harris and Bo and some of the Joshua Jacobs, they can run a little bit. I do think Alabama wins the game, but they can make it a little bit easier on themselves if they're not one-dimensional. 21.5 is a lot. I've said that multiple times as an Alabama fan. Wow, that line's big. That line's inflated. I will not take the 21.5 on either side. I will not take it. I will not give it nor take it. I will play the under in this game. I like Alabama's defense. I like LSU's defense. I think Alabama's defense is better. Alabama's defense, the Tide defense might shut out LSU. Like, that's to the point where that's how good their defense is. They might shut out LSU. So, and I'm not confident with them scoring 30 points. So, I think this game has the makings of being a 24-6 game. If LSU is able to score, it's going to be a couple field goals. So, I'm taking the under. That's my play in this. Like I said, I'm not touching the 21.5. That's too many with an Alabama LSU game because I'm sure games have been 10, 14 point spreads before, and the game was a 3-point game or something like that. So I'm not going to touch it. The last game that I'm going to cover for college is Virginia Tech at Miami. Also an 8 o'clock kickoff. Virginia Tech, is favored by 2.5, which Virginia Tech, the road team, is favored by 2.5. Okay, they're favored by 2.5. The over/under is 50. It makes sense to me. It does make sense to me that Virginia Tech is favored by 2.5. I just think Miami, being the, I guess, higher rank and being at home, it would make sense that they would be. But I guess, Vegas sees the same thing that I do. I'm not very confident in Miami. So Miami, they've looked really bad against pretty bad teams. They haven't looked very good this year, despite being a top 10 team in the country. But here's what it is. They pull it out at the end. They always find a way to win. So I am not convinced that they're going to bump up and play to their competition in this. I don't think, because they were playing, these FCS schools, they were playing down. Now that they're going to play Virginia Tech, who's a top 15 team, that they're going to bump up and play. I don't think that's how it works with Miami. I don't think they're that good of a team, honestly. I just don't think they've played anybody. I guess they haven't played anybody that matches up well with them. But they find a way to win with a late pass, a late field goal, something like that. So Virginia Tech is known for their defense. Same thing this year. They're giving up, I think it's like 11 points a game or something crazy. Their last 3 games, they've given up 20 total points. So their defense is banging on all cylinders right now. I think their defense is going to really give Malik Rozier some trouble, which is the Miami quarterback. I think he's going to have some trouble against this team. Virginia Tech's defense is fast. They're smart. They're going to force turnovers. And like I said, Miami hasn't impressed me. The Hokies are going to get after Rozier. If they're able to put pressure on him, he's going to turn the ball over. I think Virginia Tech wins this one by double digits. And I'm going to say a 24-13 game, a 27-13 game, something along those lines. I think Virginia Tech wins this one pretty easily and covers. And Miami gets exposed a little bit with how much of a not top 10 team that they are, because I've been saying it all year. I don't think they're a top 10 team, and I think we're going to finally see it. Transition, a little bit of an NFL type feel to this. Like I said, with so many games, I'm not going to break down every single one, so I'm going to go through the game, the spread, and who I'm picking. And as I'm looking at this, oh boy, what did I take? I think I took like 3 underdogs. So as I'm looking at this, I'm not very confident in the underdogs this week. But to kick it off, Buffalo at the New York Jets. Give me the Bills -3. Denver at Philadelphia. I'm taking the Eagles -7. The Rams at the Giants. I'm taking the Rams -3. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. New Orleans is -7, and I'm going to take that. Cincinnati at Jacksonville. Jacksonville -4, and I will lay the points with the Jags. Atlanta at Carolina. I am taking Atlanta +2. I know Dave on the network is probably screaming at me as he's listening to this because he thinks they are in shambles. I can't. There's got to be one game where they figure it out, and Carolina might be that game. So I'm going Atlanta +2. Indianapolis at Houston. This is a huge spread. It is 13. Houston's favored by 13. If I've noticed anything this year, Indianapolis is really bad. I'm going to take Houston -13. Baltimore and Tennessee. When I looked earlier, there was not a spread for this game. So let me see what the spread is now, if they came up with one. Tennessee. Baltimore at Tennessee. Tennessee -5.5. Tennessee -5.5. Is that the true line? Yeah, Tennessee -5.5. I'm going with Baltimore here. I think they're riding a hot streak. I think if they do, I think Baltimore might win this one outright. But I'm gonna go Baltimore covers 5.5. Arizona at San Francisco. This is an even game. So I think Arizona wins this one outright. Washington at Seattle. Seattle is favored by 7. I will take Seattle -7. Kansas City at Dallas. Dallas is favored by 1. I will take the Chiefs +1. I think the Chiefs win this one outright, obviously, because you can't win by half a point. Oakland at Miami. I'm taking Oakland -2.5. Detroit at Green Bay. And I'm going to take the Packers +2.5. So, like I said, I only took the Packers, Chiefs, and Atlanta as the underdog. Well, Baltimore, I guess, is an underdog. So four dogs this week. I don't know. The NFL has been so weird this year. I mean, Miami got throttled on Thursday night when I thought they were gonna have a chance to win that one outright, and then they go out and get blown out by 40. So this year's been really tough, really weird for NFL. Especially against the spread and everything like that. So we'll just have to see how this week goes. Maybe we'll get a feel for the second half of the season. For future bets and prop bets. So this, in case you guys aren't familiar, this is kind of how this works. It can be awards, or it can be who's favored to win. For example, a future bet would be who's the favorite to win the Super Bowl, or who's favored to win the national championship. There's one that I saw. It was last year, though. It was, heads or tails for the coin toss in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, they have pretty much coin or prop bets for everything. I put down 3 here. Here's the 3 that I went with. So I went with the Heisman, I went with the NFL MVP, and then college basketball is going to be starting soon as we enter November. College basketball is a huge passion of mine, just like college football. So I did the college basketball favorites going into the season to win the national championship. To start, we're going to go with the Heisman. So we got Saquon Barkley is the favorite right now. He's -175. So basically, if you bet 175, you'll win 100. That's how those odds work. Bryce Love +400. So you bet 100, you win 400. JT Barrett +450. Baker Mayfield +750. Josh Adams from Notre Dame +1,000. Mason Rudolph +3,300. Barkley makes the most sense to me for value for value, I personally would look Mason Rudolph. Here's the main reason why. If he has a really good game this week against Oklahoma, his odds are going to go through the roof. He's going to have, plus 500 odds. So you're going to get a lot of value now, especially if he has a really good game this week. I don't know what the rest of his schedule looks like, but if you want to get in early on him, this might be the week. Josh Adams also. He's playing really well. He catapulted himself into the favorites. He's plus 1,000. He's going to start having some tough games going towards the end of the season. This might be the best value you're going to get him at. So those are my two. I would really look forward to jumping on them if you want to play a little bit of the futures bets. The three favorites for NFL MVP. The GOAT, Tom Brady, is number one. He is plus 200. Carson Wentz is plus 225. And Alex Smith is plus 425. So, Brady is the front runner, which, not a huge surprise. Wentz and Smith both playing extremely well. I expected it to be close like that. All three of them were playing out of their mind. I would have thought Alex Smith might have been the front runner right now, or Carson Wentz. I don't know. I would have had Brady top three. I don't know if I would have had him number one. But that's all of them are pretty good value for where they're at. Another one I would watch out for future bet wise is passing yards. Right now, Brady's the favorite to lead passing yards, but I think there were some good values in there with, I can't remember what Wentz was and all that stuff, but there's some good values in there. And then to wrap up the future and prop bets, college basketball favorites, the Duke Blue Devils are the favorite. Michigan State is also the favorite, one of the favorites. So what I'll do is instead of just doing it that way, I'll just list the top 8. So we have Duke, Michigan State, Kentucky, Arizona, Kansas, Missouri, UNC, and Wichita State. Duke, hands down, regardless of me being a Duke fan and my bias, hands down, I have to agree they should be the favorite. They return Grayson Allen, and then they get a stacked recruiting class. I think they're going to be a top 5 team all year. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I can't wait for college basketball to start. Obviously, the World Series is wrapping up, but we still have possibly 2 games left to see how that goes. NFL has been crazy all year. College football, we're getting the first college football rankings tonight. Everything is just sport. In the sporting world, everything is amazing right now because everything's going on. Until next time, guys, take care.